I'm Rob Havard. This is Call to the Land. As ever with these episodes, please follow us, subscribe, like, comment and share if you can. Share any episodes. It really helps us. It does cost us money to put these on, and I'm not sort of begging your help, but if you can help us in that way that doesn't cost, that really helps us to do something. And we've got YouTube channel, which is now live. So we're putting all the episodes on there. So please go on there and and help us with that. Because we've had a bit of a weird thing on YouTube where I stupidly uploaded a load of videos at once and then they sort of shadow banned the channel because they thought I was spamming YouTube. And so I need to get out of YouTube jail. So I think any likes, comments and help you can put on there, even if it's just sort of abusing me on socials, that's fine. But just as long as we get some interaction, I think that will really help. So please help with that, because I don't really understand how to get out of jail. So today we've got a fantastic guest, Annie Landless. Thank you very much for coming on. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me. No, it's really exciting to be here. And nice to be off the farm always and having a bit of a chat.
Yeah, it's good to get off and just, yeah, exactly, isn't it? Because I think sometimes you can get locked in on farm and all the stresses and all the things, the list of things that haven't been done for us anyway.
Yes, yeah. Always. I don't know, definitely July has just been a bit of a crazy month. It's been kind of overwhelming in the last few weeks with harvest being so early.
Yeah.
And juggling different priorities and our inspections falling at this time as well. Someone did say to me the other week, it's like, all of the summer work has been done in 1 month.
Yeah.
So we've just been absolutely flat out.
Put your feet up now.
Oh, yeah, I have got a 2-week holiday booked in August, which I'm very much looking forward to, which at the time was risky because I thought we would be having harvest. And I thought, well, I'm only being Cornwall, so I can just pop back if I need to, but it's all going to be done. It is done already.
Fantastic. Well, that's good, isn't it? Have it in the barn. And even if it is a bit light this year, is it?
Now I need to sell it.
Yeah,
That's the next stage. Yeah. But the lack of rain late on has definitely meant that yields are down. But the winter crops are still looking okay. I mean, still we had a good spring in terms of rain with us in the Cotswolds. So they came well. They're just not super heavy.
Similar with our hay crops, I think. Just glad of that rain we had in May, really. Yeah. Okay, so getting straight into it, bit of background on you. So where you grew up and like the connection to agriculture.
So I grew up on a farm near Oxford, between Banbury and Oxford. It's been through a few iterations. My grandpa bought it in 1960. So he actually came down from Harrogate. He was sort of into horses, but then got into farming, and they bred cattle and they did a bit of arable. But I'm assured that the farm was fully pasture at some point in the 80s and 70s. They had a pedigree herd of Charolais cattle. I spoke to a seed supplier yesterday who said, was your grandpa Ian Landless? And he remembered, seeing the pedigree herd that my grandpa and dad looked after in the 70s and 80s at the shows, and knew the family. So
that would have been, I suppose, pretty early in the Charolais probably, when they were coming over.
Yeah, I guess, there probably weren't that many breeders, and they were the Chew herd because the farm is in Duns Chew.
Okay.
And we still have 2 huge notice boards of rosettes and sashes from things that they won at shows, at the Royal Show mostly. And like my memories of farming as a child were mostly pressure washing cows to make them look real pretty. And spending a lot of time on the farm with my family. I've got a younger sister, and my parents and my grandparents lived there as well. So we were living next to them, the whole time that we were there, that we are still there. My parents then turned the farm organic in 2000, and they did organic beef at farmers markets sort of all through the Thames Valley. So my teenage years were spent selling beef and going to abattoirs on school holidays. And we had ponies and we did a lot of riding, and we had a pretty rural upbringing there on the farm.
And was that Charolais still with the beef then?
So they actually sold the pedigree herd. It must have been in the late 90s. I remember it being in the summer because I think I attended the sale in a swimming costume. I was probably about 7. But we did keep my favourite cow, who was called My Fair Lady, after my favourite film. And then my parents bought a more commercial mixed bag for beef, and they continued to breed Charolais bulls that they used, and then they bought a South Devon bull when they started doing farmers markets because they felt that the South Devon cross was good for beef and to have a native breed. Plus, people who bought direct understood where Devon was and didn't know much about Charolais. So it made sense for their story of building their local beef business.
Cool. So did that give you a real appetite to do that, or did you want to do different things?
It did, but not at the time. I think I really loved it, but I totally didn't expect that I was going to be a farmer at that point. But although if you looked at my diaries from when I was sort of 10, 11, 12, you'd probably think that I'm going to be a farmer. But I think I was quite creative. I was really into art at school, and my parents really encouraged me to do other things and have other interests and go to uni. So when I was 18, probably the last thing I thought was that I was going to be a farmer. I was off to Leeds. I went to Leeds Uni. I did a history of art degree, and then I moved to London with my boyfriend at the time and a lot of my friends. And at that point, farming was pretty, it also wasn't that cool. I don't think any of my friends at school or uni really knew about my farming background. No one was really interested. Whereas now, obviously people are a lot more interested, and people that I went to school and uni with now are going, oh, I never knew you were a farmer, that's so cool. I feel like it's more...
Do you think something's changed there?
Yeah, people are a lot more interested in where their food comes from and that sort of lifestyle factor, rural life, and what it takes to be a farmer as well. It definitely feels quite different.
Yeah, I think, Chris, our videographer, was talking about Clarkson's farm. I don't know if he wants me to mention his name, but just the impact that has had, as much as it is entertainment and whatever, but the amount of people who mention that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. People say to me all the time, do you know Clarkson's farm? And I was like, used to go to pony club rallies there when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Know the farm very well.
Oh, wow.
The guy that Clarkson calls Jesus, who brings the combine, Simon Strong, is a very old friend of Dad's. They grew up together. Really? And they had the tenancy on the farm when they were children. So, I do know it well, but not for the reasons described in the show.
No.
But it's definitely connected people back with that conversation about farming. And I do think what Clarkson captures well is the emotion of it sometimes, that heightened emotion, and how make or break and real and raw it is when things go wrong, when it's dangerous or animals are sick, or, and you run into these challenges regularly. And it's not, I've had both sides of the coin. I've worked at a desk in a city, I've lived abroad a bit and worked in a startup there, and now I have a pretty comparatively feral existence riding around on quad bikes and moving cows around, but equally doing similar desk work to the jobs that I've had before. But that's part of farming too, is doing the sales, doing the marketing, doing the socials. So I think it's interesting to shine a light on the challenges and that day-to-day life as well. People can connect with that. Yeah,
absolutely. So history of art, was that just interest, or was that with a design to something else, or...?
I loved art. I really loved painting and drawing myself.
And where was that?
Where did I study? So I studied history of art at Leeds. I actually did an art foundation course in Oxford when I was 18 as well. Cool. So I was really into painting and drawing, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I came out of uni and was like, what the hell am I doing? I don't know what to do with this. Literally, this has left me with one career path, an auction house. And I'd specialised in African art and done a dissertation on that, which was super fascinating. My mum was actually born in Nairobi because my grandpa was an engineer in Kenya, and they'd moved around. So I was fascinated by all of that. But it didn't leave me much with a career trajectory. So I actually ended up doing a sort of business secretarial course for a few months and got a job as a team assistant as my first job in London. And that more set me on the communications path.
Okay. And then you worked in London for
2 years, and then I worked in Berlin for 3 years, and then I came back and worked in London again for, another 3 years or something like that, maybe a bit longer.
So what was the spark then to come back?
So when I was living in Berlin, I worked for a startup, and we did courses in coding and web design, and I was their community manager. So I did all the email marketing, looked after students and social media, and I had a really brilliant manager there who just trained me in marketing communications and also showed me a different way of working in terms of culture. He actually just stayed with me last weekend with his partner, so it's really nice that we're all still in touch. But I think a lot of people that were there, plus like at that point I was still, I think I was 23 when I moved there. I was quite into music, still am, and did quite a lot of clubbing when I was in Berlin. And people go, how did you get from the farm to here? I was like, I don't know, that's a good question. And then I was struggling a bit with my digestion. So I thought I had a gluten intolerance. Maybe it was just beer and German processed food. But I started to look at what I was eating. The culture of shopping over there is quite different. So it's not like here where you have big supermarkets and you get everything in one place. There were amazing like Turkish supermarkets and lots of little shops. And I used to sort of shop in lots of different places, local markets as well, and buy fresh food. And I just got more into food when I was there, and more into health and more into understanding how my body worked. And I worked for a startup, so like yoga and meditation were all the rage, and I was getting a little bit sort of indoctrinated by this different lifestyle, different from the fast-paced like London stress. It was much, the pace of life was different, on the U-Bahn, I don't know if you've ever been on the Underground in London, but like it's horrific, and you're squashed against the door. But on the U-Bahn in Berlin, no one gets up until the train actually stops.
Right.
And I think I got into that, and then I started thinking about food and where it comes from. And then I was like, oh yeah, I grew up on a farm. That makes a lot more sense to me. And then, my circumstances sort of changed, and I ended up moving back to the UK and getting a job with a farmer's market in London. So it was a sort of software job because it was called the Food Assembly, and they provided software for people to set up their own market. So create a food hub where you found farmers and customers, and then you hosted it in your location.
Yeah.
And I was their network coordinator. So I sort of took one step within what I'd learned skills wise towards a career in food and farming at that point.
So that was what, building networks to bring everyone together for the farmers market, consumers as well, and customers, or?
Yeah, so I was the network coordinator, so I actually looked after the people that hosted them, so supported them to build a network in their local area. So anyone could set one up across the country. And we recruited essentially hosts to use the website in order to bring people together. So they supported farmers with uploading their products. They would have an online shop, and then they would also then recruit customers who could sign up, and they could order within a sort of 2-day window, and then there would be a weekly collection. It's like a pre-order market.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So then that was what, sort of half a foot back at home maybe? And then you got this connection and opportunity and... Yeah. That definitely was the spark, getting into food. And then from there on out, really, the people that I met were very transformative in terms of my interest in... We didn't really call it regenerative farming then. I think we were definitely calling it more sustainable or, agroecological, but regen kind of came later. I made friends with Abby Rose, who started VitaCycle and Soil Mentor. Yeah. Mainly through getting at the Food Assembly. They weren't doing so well in the UK. It was a French company, and they made everyone redundant apart from me a year into my job there. And they made me part-time. So I then had to basically do the job of 7 people part-time, just to keep the UK arm of it going, because they weren't quite ready to close it down. They just wanted to keep it alive, which was an experience.
at the end of that, my manager at the time said, I will give you a honorary qualification in crisis management. But like that enabled me to obviously take on some freelance work on the side. So me and Abby started working together, and I started working at Soil Mentor and meeting lots of really cool people who were interested in soil and farming.
And for those who don't know, Soil Mentor...
So Soil Mentor is an app for monitoring soil health with visual soil tests. So the visual soil tests are all freely available, but you can use the app to record the results and then aggregate that information to make decisions on your farm. So some people might know me as Worm Mother, just because I just really I get very excited about soil tests and counting worms, and something that I've maintained. I think I've been working with Soil Mentor for about 9 years now, but I don't really work for them anymore aside to do workshops.
Yeah.
So like training sessions to get people familiar with the soil tests if they're going to use Soil Mentor. So earthworm counts, infiltration rates, digging holes and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I do. That visual assessment thing, we've been through lots of different soil test stuff, and whether you're doing sort of loss on ignition type soil tests, which actually we found quite variable results, even if it's from a lab, and you know, we didn't actually see much consistency there, to be honest. And actually from a practical point of view, I think I'd probably been taught badly, but the doing the visual assessment analysis, I was like, that's not really float my boat. But there's a guy, Tristan.
Yes.
Does he work with Soil Mentor as well?
Also. So we do similar stuff. Gig. Like we both do workshops for them when they need.
Yeah. So Tristan, seeing him actually do the visual assessment is I was like, I just totally got it.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been our go-to thing for seeing what progress we're making, because it's just, as a farmer, it's like you can see the soil, smell the soil, you can look at the rooting depth, aggregation, the clumping, you can just see the health of it, you can smell it. And that's such a good thing, I think. And he really brought that home. He's a really good guy.
Yeah. No, it's super. And I've loved, again, like working with him. And there's another lady called Greer Mandison and Abby. We do that session at Groundswell every year, even though it's the worst time of year because it's so dry. But yeah, I love that interactivity of connecting with farmers and like getting people excited, because it's so simple. You can actually just look and start to learn about what healthy soil is on your farm just with a spade.
Yeah, absolutely. And the benefits of that just all round, basically, for not just the farm, but everyone, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. So you're doing that. And then, so you're currently farm manager at, is that right?
Yes,
Ampney Brook Farm?
Ampney Brook Farm.
Yeah. And then was that before you did stuff? That's your main farming work now, is that right?
Yeah. So yeah, I've been there for 4 years now.
Yeah.
And then I had one other farm manager job at Hampton Gay Farm, which is near Kidlington. So yeah, after working at the food assembly and that sort of debacle of getting made semi-redundant and then getting to work with Abby, I did a postgrad in agriculture at the RAU, which was essentially like a lot of people that were on my course went on to do farm manager roles or get involved in practical farming. So it was all the things that I probably didn't learn from Dad when I was growing up, like the crop science, crop husbandry, science, like animal husbandry stuff, jargon. I felt like I was super lucky to meet people to teach me about soil and regen, but I didn't have the fundamentals, and that definitely was, really...
The kind of agriculture fundamentals,
Yeah, exactly. So just some of that, like, growth stages in crops and, like, science of, like, animal reproduction. I don't know, there was lots of bits. I've got biology A level. I always loved that kind of thing, but, like, with an agriculture focus. So I think that... that really helped me, and plus there was a good network around the RAU too. It really was good. So Ampney Brook used to belong to the RAU.
Oh, okay.
So subsequently, after working at Hampton Gay, probably almost definitely managed to land that job off the back of having this course and working in the right sort of networks, but having never actually managed a farm before, felt like a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And then, after a year there, moved to Ampney Brook, which had belonged to the RAU and then was sold in 2020.
Okay. I think I saw that for sale at the time, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at Harn Hill.
Yeah.
I think it caused a bit of ruckus when the RAU sold it, because they sold it when I was doing my postgrad, right before COVID. But it was bought by my now boss, who's very interested in regen and organic, and wanted to convert the whole farm to organic, which is what he then did. And then they looked for someone to take over as farm manager once it had become fully organic. Well, the conversion had ended, so it became fully organic in October 2022, which is just after when I started working there.
Okay. So going back to the first farm manager job then, so you've not been a farm manager before. What's day one like? How does that feel?
I think I was a bit terrified that I couldn't do it. Like, I was super excited, but gosh, like, I'd worked in desk jobs up till then. I'd had no practical real experience, and I did maintain my job with soil management and feeder cycle just in case. I was like, I don't want to give it up just in case I can't do it. And I definitely just like, I'm trying to remember what that first, because I lived in a mobile home there, so I moved in and then I had my first day, and I just remember like initially probably being pretty nervous and worried that I couldn't do it, and then just being like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, I get to look after cows and get paid to do it, and just like driving around in the truck, and like I do love working with animals and livestock. Like that was something I really just felt so instinctive, and getting to know the cows. And I guess I was brought up on that, like our pedigree herd all had names. My dad could tell you the history of every single cow on the farm, and I just relished getting stuck into knowing the herd there.
And you'd had a horse background as well.
And growing up with ponies and like always being responsible for our animals was quite a big part of our childhood as well.
There is a difference there, isn't it? That you definitely feel that. I remember when I was working a day job building the farm up here, you almost do have to pinch yourself, like, this is cool, that this is my job now. It's like, don't tell anyone.
I still do it. Like, even today when I'm riding around the quad bike and there's swallows and I'm surrounded by tall grass, and like our stock person is on holiday today, and we've got a calf that's lame, so I got it in and gave it an injection on my own. I'm like, I'm doing this and I'm on my own, and it's great. And like, there's something, I feel like that's why a lot of my friends also are like, wow, like this is a job. And like you kind of, and it is a job, but it's a lifestyle as well. And I was brought up doing that. And I think, when I started that first farm manager role, like I think the fear of not being able to do it pretty quickly went away. But I mean, there were plenty of like practical challenges about working alone with animals, where I had to just start being super savvy about how I did things, and like work with their natural instincts more than anything else. And I loved that process of like adapting, but like was stressful at times, and like long hours. And it's like in these, in times of change, you always have this discomfort where you're sort of wrestling with how to change the system. But like, I know that when I got there, I was always looking for ways to kind of improve and adapt how we were doing things. And we had pigs as well, which I'd never worked with, not grown up with them at all. And getting to know them was also really fun too.
How do you like pigs?
I love them at Hampton Gate. I mean, I think they're interesting because they fit, I guess, in the two farms. We've got pigs at the farm at Ampney Brook as a sort of like, they're important, but they're not, we're never going to have a big pig herd. Certainly at Hampton Gate, they felt like a bit of a side hustle. Less at Ampney Brook, we've like properly business planned it out, and it's like working, actually like amazing. Selling a whole pig is so much easier than selling a whole cow because of the less amount of meat. And bacon and sausages seem to fly off the shelves. But at Hampton Gate, it was just managing them. I think a lot of the time, the cost of feed. So from a business perspective, organically, they're quite challenging. And we just bought in pedigree organic weaners, and they grow really slowly. And they were a pleasure. They were Oxford Sandy and Black. they were a real pleasure to have around, and I enjoyed having them very much. But I never farrowed a sow there. We just had weaners and raised them, and then actually I think we got one sow in pig just before I left, so that was the next person's problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pigs at Ampney Brook have been a real new experience for me. Harry, who joined us as a stock person nearly 2 years ago now, loves pigs, and so when we hired him, it was with the remit of starting a new enterprise.
Okay.
Having the extra resources. So last year we bought a litter of 8 weaners in the spring, and we've got 9 hectares of established woodland at the farm, so loads of woodland to put them through, which definitely means they're easier to manage, because currently the woodland is unmanaged, not used for anything. So it's adding a new enterprise into a part of the farm that we're not using really. So that's been great. And we kept 2 of those weaners, 2 of the gilts back, bought a boar. So they're a mixed breed. The weaners are sort of, they were, I think, like Duroc, Saddleback, Old Spot, total mix. And we just kept the 2 friendliest girls.
Yeah.
And bought an Old Spot boar and put them in pig. And yeah, farrowed them in the spring. And it was like, I've never seen anything like a pig farrowing. Like, it was cool. It was really cool. I mean, I've watched plenty of cows calve, and it's always like, is it going to be okay?
Yeah.
Is that a nose? I think those are front feet. You know, you're like watching. It's such a laborious process. I mean, sometimes obviously they slip them out, but like other times you're watching, you're just hoping it's all going to go okay. But with the piglets, which is bang, 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 11 fired out in all, you know, they can come forwards, backwards, but they're so much more vulnerable. They're like this big. So then I had this sort of panic of like, we bought these really amazing arcs, like they have on Clarkson's farm.
Yeah.
They're farrowing arcs, but because we got the pigs in the woods, they had such strong instincts. They both built these really elaborate nests and wanted to farrow outside. And yeah, they didn't want our really expensive, super high tech arcs. They wanted like big nests in the drizzle and wind. And the first pig farrowed in the day, and we had a working student, and actually, so a few of us sort of looking at what was going on, and we all carried the ark over to her and put it over the top of her. The second pig farrowed on Sunday night before a bank holiday Monday.
Always.
Classic. And had worked out how to escape from the ark. But we really wanted her to stay in, because once, I don't know how much you know about farrowing pigs, but
not a lot.
If anyone's watched Clarkson's farm, you'll know that they like to lie on them, and you do have to be careful. And the arcs are just so well set up for protecting from that.
Yeah.
So the way they farrow in them is there's a ring within them that enables the piglets. They just naturally move the outside of the arc, so they don't get squashed if the sow moves around when she's farrowing. But I think when they farrow outside in the nests, it can get a bit sort of chaotic. Plus we've got masses of foxes, and they're vulnerable for the first 7 to 10 days. So the second pig, I did end up ratchet strapping the door down at about 9 o'clock on a Sunday night, going, please stay in there, because I just want all these piglets to be alive.
Yeah.
And sure enough, when I went back at 6 o'clock the next morning, I opened the hatch of the ark, and there were 6 perfect little piglets, all very happy. And once she'd had them in there, absolutely fine, didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite an experience, and yeah, we had no losses.
Fantastic.
We had 17 piglets born between 2 sows, and we had 17 piglets until last week, but 6 of them have gone as weaners to friends. And I must say big thank you to John and Nick from Paddock Farm, who were a huge help.
Fantastic.
With that, answering my questions and like panicked voice notes about they're farrowing outside, what should we do?
Amazing. Well, it's so helpful to have a network of people you can call on.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, really good. And how did you got to know them through the farm there, or? Yeah,
mostly through Pasture for Life, actually. So Pasture for Life network has always been really good, amazing for me. And before I got my job at Hampton Gate, I did do some work for them freelance, sort of just off the back of like meeting them through Soil Mentor and Pasture for Life and Soil Mentor being quite closely affiliated. So they were looking for someone to create a toolkit on how to sell direct, and with my experience at the food assembly and also growing up with it, they gave me the remit of like speaking to lots of farmers in their network to research how they do things and then bringing that together in a toolkit.
Cool.
So yeah, we were working quite closely together then, and then Hampton Gay was Pasture for Life certified, Ampney Brook is Pasture for Life certified, so I've always stayed pretty firmly in the network and go to lots of events. So I think John and Nick hosted at their farm a Pasture for Life event probably, or something similar, back in, that would have been in 2022 maybe, in the spring, summer. And I just met them there, see them at Groundswell, chat,
cool.
hang out. They're not that far from my parents, only about 40 minutes from the family farm. So they recently did their big because they cooked a whole cow at Groundswell.
Fantastic, on that spit.
And I think they've never done it again because it's quite an experience, but they did do it again at their farm near Brails.
Right. I've seen them with that contraption out again.
That was
fantastic.
A month or two ago, so I went to that with a friend locally, and it's just have always been really like, we have this like post winter catch up, I think. It was like, how did you get on? Was it okay? It's like we don't see each other for like 4 or 5 months, and then there's like the emergence of like, everyone alive yet? Just
cool. So loving that now, and and then long term thinking home maybe, and
definitely the family farm is always on my mind, and how to make that work. Especially it would be my dream to have my own cows, and do my own thing from that perspective, and like bring everything I've learnt together over the years, and having the like continuing the legacy as well, and like continuing the family farm is really important to me. It's a special farm. Like I feel very connected to it, and growing up there and always having that as my route, I think like I'd love to be able to do something there in the future. So that's always sort of on my mind, but it's like how to make it work, and the challenge of like running a business, and then
got to pay.
Exactly.
All of that. And I think it's probably hard to really, for people to understand who don't experience it, but just that the feeling of when you grow up somewhere on a farm and you see it through the seasons, and you see these different parts, and there's like these hidden sections and the bits you played in and built dens in and all of that stuff. It leaves, the farm leaves part of itself in you almost, doesn't it? And it's I certainly know when we had to, or Dad had to sell most of the farm here, like at that time, such a big impact psychologically, and I wasn't really that interested. I was just playing rugby, drinking too much, and then you just realise what we had, and then it's a massive thing, isn't it? And I think I have said this before, but like on the farm here, there's hedgerows here that my great grandfather laid, and my grandfather has laid that hedge, and you can see the different pleach cuts from the different generations, and it's like,
I know,
this is cool. Like there is something about connection to land and a sense of place that is not, I don't know, like it's not just a transient thing that you can just like, people aren't fungible, moving from here to there, and like there's something about that, I think. But
I totally agree, and I think having that, I love listening to my parents and my aunties who grew up there as well, and sadly my grandparents have both passed away now, but the stories and like how the farm has changed, and I just find it like fascinating that like we know it as it is now, but it's been through this huge like sort of story over the years, and one thing, and I do find this quite, it's just something I really noticed about being an employed farm manager at Harn Hill, but then the difference with being at home and farming is like, I've only lived in Cirencester, near Cirencester. I live on the farm for 4 years, and I like, it takes a long time to build a network, and like I have by association from my family, which is only an hour away, I know various people.
Yeah.
But even so, when I'm at home, we have such a strong network through like my family being there since 1960, and it's crazy who, you know, pops up, and like, you know, I grew up there, so I know people there, and like there's a strong connection to the land and the story and our family evolving there over the years, but equally there's a connection to the community there that I don't feel anywhere else, and actually that often resonates with me so much. Like I never realised how valuable that was to me, I think, until like recently as I've got older, where I'm like, this means a lot.
Yeah.
Like the value in those connections, and I do really love the farm. It's special.
It is an interesting thing, because it's not something that, if you sort of modern Western culture society really values, it sort of assumes that we're essentially just economic individuals that could be
workers.
And that there's not that human connection side of it. But I think there's an author, Paul Kingsnorth, who talks about how it's easier to profit if you create a desert first.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to invade a desert than something that's already rich and thriving. And
quite. It's like this strength in the connections and community, and like that shared love for the land, I think, too. I mean, it's really held our family in that place. Like that connection to it. And actually the thing that's quite special about home is that, I mean, like, it's got all the original old stone buildings.
Lovely.
Which is quite unusual, and certainly
not converted yet.
Yeah, no, a little bit falling down. It's got a listed Dutch barn, but like with a sort of patchwork of other more modern buildings in between, which were more of the cattle sheds for when they came in over the winter. So the stone barns are generally like, we're a bit of a hoarding family. There's quite a lot of furniture and other bits and pieces, but just feel the history of it when you're there. And again, at Harn Hill, we've got these much more modern buildings, far more practical. Like, you can do a lot more with them. But I do love the character, I think.
Yeah.
And like some of that has really held, I think, our family sort of there. But it's, what does that look like? It's all going to be maintained, like, for the future. Like, how
you have to make them
do that? Make them
work,
pay.
And you can't just put money on them if they're not going to. And absolutely. But it is nice. I know what you mean, because there's not that many places left that haven't had everything turned into a Airbnb or whatever it is these days. And the farm up in Shropshire, there are some more out of the way places up there, and you just see these old farmsteads exactly the same sort of thing. But
I spent a year in Northumberland, and I loved how many. I mean, we're near Hadrian's Wall. Like,
whereabouts?
In Corbridge.
Okay.
So my boyfriend at the time was from Newcastle, and we moved up there for a year. And I just loved how you would see just like, you know, old castles and like there were just ruins around. Whereas I just feel like you don't get that down in like Oxfordshire, the Cotswolds. Like some of it, they've either been turned into something, or I don't know. You could just sort of walk around on the fell, and it felt so wild and rugged and beautiful, and the farming's very different. Whereas, I do find, particularly where my parents' farm is, it's close to Dalesford, Soho Farmhouse is 10 minutes down the road.
Right.
It's really changed the area that I grew up in, really. It's very different from how it was in the 90s.
Gone up market.
Very much so. I mean, I think apparently all the people fly around in helicopters looking for houses to buy, but they haven't yet made my parents an offer. It probably could do with a bit of work.
It might be a good thing.
Yeah,
cool. So, I mean, that's really cool to get that background and interest there. And then something else that's come up recently, I saw on your socials actually, and you've spoken about it, is you were on a panel at Groundswell talking about women in agriculture and how much that meant to you and the impact that's had. So I don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I felt when I started doing a farm manager job, I'd sort of like made a bit of a break from, let's say, the well-trodden path, like, you know, friends of mine getting married and having kids, and I was like, I'm going back to uni to study farming. And then I became a farm manager, and I felt quite like, I was like, this is so cool, like what we talked about earlier, like getting paid to do all this stuff. And I'm really like driven and motivated and quite, excited and passionate about what I'm doing. But I felt lonely as a woman leading the farm. Like I didn't know that many other women doing a farm manager role or kind of leading an agricultural business. Maybe more so, like Abby had at Feed a Cycle had given me that like really strong female role model. And also farming is quite kind of isolating, it's super busy, and I was often on my own, particularly in that first job. It was just me on the farm, and the owner would help me when he was around, or I would he was having a house renovation done, so I'd enlist the builders to help me a lot of the time. So I was a young female, often trying to get the always male builders to help me get cows in and move things around. And and then in my new job at Ampney Brook, again, it's just lots of men all the time in contractor roles, and you are sort of, I felt lonely at times being a woman at the helm and making decisions, and there are plenty of challenges as well, and it was often, particularly so in my role at Ampney Brook, was to take over from the old farm manager who had been there since the 80s. So people would often assume that he was the manager, probably still do, and I at times would feel a bit invisible and a bit and it felt quite challenging because, or even when I'd say I'm the farm manager, people would go, really? I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
And so I felt definitely challenges through kind of breaking some of these social norms. People always assume I'm really young as well, and I'm I've actually done quite a lot of stuff in my life, and this is kind of a culmination of a lot of those things. So with all of those things in mind, and with it being International Year of the Woman Farmer, and some of the amazing women that I've met since who've shared similar challenges and who are really trying to pave the way for regenerative farming and different leadership structures. And I just felt it would be amazing to bring a group of women together to do an all-female farm manager panel to try and share some of the challenges, some of the solutions, and inspire other women to take on more leadership roles. And when I started to dig into the stats, that actually I think of agricultural managers, maybe it's agricultural farm holders. I think farm holders, 70% are men and 30% are women. And I think there's a higher percentage of managers that are female, but it's still low. And it's why is there this imbalance in that? And can we have a more balanced view of that, and what's holding women back? Because I know for me, having a totally different career before, I just didn't think I could do it. I didn't know that I could do it. It wasn't I grew up thinking.
And is that about visibility of seeing other women do it?
I think definitely
in those positions,
sharing the stories of you don't have to. It's not like when I left school, I was taking over the family farm. I went off and did other things. Your journey into it doesn't have to be linear. And I think making it visible that you can make the leap, and farming isn't always about brute strength. It's a lot about decisions and soft skills. And actually, with the regenerative farming businesses that I'm now involved in, I was hired because I had a communications background more so than I could be a mechanic and drive a tractor, because they were looking for direct routes to market. And I had that. I mean, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not that interested in tractors. I do know how to drive one, but my interest is a lot more in the communication, storytelling, selling direct to the public, and I'm really a livestock person, and I'm interested in growing crops. I mean, I like the mixed farming setup, although it's a lot. It definitely, you realise that it isn't just about that. It's about so many things. And
I think that's one of the challenges with the mixed farming thing as well, is that, farms, growing up, when this farm was 185 acres, it was a mixed farm, but there were people.
Yeah.
There was people on farm, more employees to do a lot of the work. and different people with different sort of, they're going to cover this area, they're going to cover livestock, sheep, whatever. But nowadays it's like a mixed farm, but then you've got one person manager who's going to do all the work.
Needs to do everything.
Everything. So that's a lot, isn't it? And certainly, like, we got rid of the sheep just because my simple brain could only cope with one species. So it's a lot easier. It's just cows. So
yeah, and I know, and it's that sort of constant switching of hats. And again, like, my like gender notwithstanding, I was like, can I be a farm manager? I still think about that every day. I'm like, am I good at this? I don't know. I'm just, trying every day to be better and learning all the time. And I think that's sort of where I've got to as well, with like, from what I found from like my sort of leadership style per se, and other like women that I've met who've been really amazing inspirations to me, is this leadership where it's like super flexible, really empathetic. It's like really okay if you like make it's not even a mistake, it's just like if something doesn't go to plan, it's okay. Like, no one's going to shout. It's not going to be a big deal. Like, we're just going to hold it together and like adapt and learn from it, and like come with solutions. And we're also, I think, like, again, what we're trying to do at Ampney Brook is quite different to all our neighbours who are quite conventional. We're organic, we're regen, we're mob grazing, we're intercropping wheat and beans. We've got a market garden and a polytunnel, and it's just in our immediate sort of neighbours, and probably what the old farm manager was used to. We're doing things quite differently, and things like bale grazing, keeping cows out in the winter is not really the done thing in our area. So it's like I said before, it's like that sort of trying to find some comfort in the discomfort of like leading the team, being empathetic, knowing it's not always going to go smoothly, not worrying about what the neighbours think.
It's always a thing.
And just like, I think I always come back to holding my nerve all the time. Just knowing that it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out. It actually isn't. I mean, when it matters is when it impacts the bottom line. And I think that's also why at Ampney Brook it's great. We can try things, but also at home on the family farm, it's a different conversation around that in terms of like the business case. And definitely at Ampney Brook we have a strong value set, but it's like we were also saying this earlier, I think, about this sort of values business. And like how at Ampney Brook we can invest in the long game, like sort of forward thinking as well, and maybe not always thinking, well, if we fuck that up we're going to have a total like financial disaster, which at home it would be, it's sort of a different kettle of fish.
It's the ability to go and take that risk.
Exactly.
And I think that values thing, I think Sophie was saying in the kitchen about how someone farms is kind of, that's their values. Whatever you say, that's that. And I think that's right. But certainly business reality can actually shortcut that. And I certainly know people doing stuff they don't want to do because they don't have a choice, or they feel like they don't.
I feel another thing I've learned as well with managing the farm is not to be too idealistic at times, because I definitely came into it quite idealistic, but you do have to be realistic sometimes. And while at Ampney Brook, I think we'd love to sell everything direct. We just haven't got the market there yet. We haven't got a list of customers long enough to sell a whole beef carcass when it comes in fresh. And that takes time to build. And like, there's not that many of us on the team, and we're doing other things. So we do sell some cattle to ABP, and I think it's that thing of like being able to be adaptable all the time, which is what we find in like with dealing with the climate extremes that we're seeing, like economic instability, changes in DEFRA all the time. Like, how do you plan for that? And I think I suppose they're not like qualities that are unique to like feminine like leadership, but like they are feminine qualities, like feminine leadership qualities of this flexibility, adaptive nature, this constant kind of conversation around things. And I'm interested in that and seeing that in other friends and women that I've met who are leading these regenerative farming businesses.
Yeah, it is. I think it is interesting. I think there's also, whether it's a feminine, masculine thing or not, but it's certainly we find when we're employing people, like that whole thing about mistakes, I think that really resonates with me, because it's one of the things that people, particularly if they come when we've employed people from a more traditional farming background, even if they're young, but they've that's what their experience is. This might not be everywhere, it could be just our experience, but there's a tendency to hide or cover up what's actually happened, because they're going to get a bollocking.
Yeah.
And to avoid the bollocking, and for me as managing the business, I just need to know what actually happened here.
Yeah.
Because if it was a big screw up, then that's okay. I mean, as long as you don't keep doing it.
Yeah.
But we also need to know exactly what happened so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that transparency, or at least people feel like they can be open, it's going to be hard to manage that person.
Well, I think that's exactly it. And I think, again, this sort of came up in the talk at Groundswell, is this, and it loops back as well. So when I worked with Abby at Soil Mentor and VitaCycle, we adopted, and so Abby and Inti and the team that we had there, they were called the Feminine Business Principles, but we altered them and called them Regenerative Business Principles. But one of them was like empathy and essentially like openness and kindness, and like meeting whatever thing, no matter how catastrophic it is when it goes wrong, that you don't feel you're going to get bollocked for it. And like I think that empathy is really important for me, and we talked about it in the panel at Groundswell, because I think if the team feel that I'm empathetic, they then feel like they can tell me honestly what's happened. And I grew up on a family farm. I had my grandpa and my dad there. I know what it's like, to get shouted at when things go wrong or when stress is high because animals are not doing what you want. And I've had that from childhood. Like I've seen it all really from that perspective. And I think I really feel like I equally in other jobs that I've had all sorts of different managers, and like ones that I've been terrified of or would also feel, and it's like this thing of like, let's just be honest and open and empathetic and supportive, because then I feel like you're then in this scenario where people are like, oh, it's okay if I get something wrong. I think the main thing for me is like that thing, as you say, the commitment to like, it doesn't really matter if it goes wrong, but we're going to learn from it and adapt and try again. And I mean, like yesterday, I did a stupid thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I managed to drop the end. We had treated this calf that was lame, and there was a little bit of Loxcom left in a bottle, and I just smashed it in front of the medicine cabinet. Like, oh my God. It was also Farm 24 yesterday. I was like, I'm not sure this is good for Farm 24 on Instagram. I was like, oh no, but immediately I put a photo of it on our work WhatsApp and was like, I've just done this, please no one go and tread in it. But like, it's okay, like these things do happen. And like I went into the vets because I also had my dog spayed yesterday. I had to go and pick her up, and I was like, I also need a bottle of Loxcom because I've just smashed ours. And the head vet that runs the practice is like, don't tell the boss. And I was like, well, I won't tell myself then. But it is that sort of thing of this like, oh, what's that culture of like, why can't you just be honest about things?
I do find it's it's a bit of it, like you just talked about, a good way of putting it is that idealism versus realism. And I definitely have found that trying to be as empathetic as possible is good. But human nature being what it is, not everyone is this, perfect person. Not certainly I'm not. But, who's just going to go, once they have the openness, aren't they going to flood with, accountability? Yeah. And I think that's the other thing. The only challenge then is if there isn't any accountability, then people who might be tended towards be a bit more lazy, or they take the easy option, then they might just do it again. Or they might shortcut, or they might not tell you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's trying to that balance
Yeah.
between accountability and openness is really it's quite difficult actually.
Yeah, definitely something that I find it, as a manager like a real challenge. And those are the times where I'm like, can I do this? Like, how do you build in those structures for accountability and like working, you know, because teams are brilliant. Like when we're cracking, we get so much done, but like it doesn't happen all the time. You know, there's always this space for like when someone gets injured or like people are ill or we're just like we've had such hot weather and everyone's tired because long days in the heat. And it is like, how do you have that balance between empathy, openness, accountability? But I do feel when you have trust and respect and open communication, those things should come.
Yes.
And like, again, in the community of the farm, I hope to see that.
Yeah, when you say that in the community of your farm, or just are you talking about wider?
Well, in the community of our farm, and then sort of wide. I mean, we have a whole load of contractors and other people that we work with as well, and so there's a sort of constant communication around that too.
Yeah, no, good. And what would you like to see change in that regard, and what could be done to improve things on this front?
In terms of
women in farming and representation.
Well, I think I'm quite excited about the possibility of like more support networks and more sort of visibility, and like even amazing that I'm here talking to you about it, because I feel like since the panel discussion, I've had friends of mine and people that I don't know feeding back and going, it really made me think about like how we manage our teams, or the sort of the structure that we have, and maybe we could be a bit more flexible here, or maybe we could, you know, that balance, as we said, between kind of empathy and accountability, like where people sit in that in terms of how they manage their teams. So like I've had reflections on that, which has been great. And then also women who've come to me and said, I'm from a family farm, I've been doing something else, I really want to get back into it. How did you do it? Or how can I get work experience? Or also working in the kind of food space as well, like interested in direct sales and working with like mills and other things. So I just, in terms of the future and how to help women in farming, I think just like being aware of some of the challenges and supporting each other, and just having this something that stayed with me. This is sort of relevant, but I used to listen to this radio show in Berlin called the Do You Breakfast Show, and the guy on that always said, we need a get nice quick scheme, we need everyone to be nicer. And it's like sometimes those small actions of helping people, if you can within your context in your busy farming life, can really help someone else out, anyone. And I try to do as much of that as possible, like giving back, because I've had so much help myself in terms of when I have a challenge on the farm, in particular, like I'm with the Pasture for Life Network, but also in Arable, where I feel I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. And my only like touch point is the old farm manager, who's much more conventional, has organic experience too, but we definitely have interesting conversations about how to do things, and I'm often like looking for support on whether I'm making the right decision or what the outcomes of this decision could be. And I've got an amazing network of arable farmers who I can just voice note and say, and they're just friends who I've met over the years, and I feel super grateful when I'm not sure what to do that I can do that. And I think for all people in farming, but also for women who are learning and getting into it and maybe need a bit more support, that is really helpful. So support networks I think are game changing.
Which really fits into your experience and skill set as well.
Yeah, I guess it does. There you go.
Heard it here. You mentioned something there about the mills, because you direct sell, or you sell the flour to millers locally.
Yes.
So, and I'm just thinking about that as well, actually, is that there's a community of farmers, but one of the things that's happened with the kind of streamlining of the supply chain is that for a lot of producers, we basically just sell to the processor, whether that's flour, whether that's grain or meat or whatever. But actually, with the mill, you then maybe have a relationship with them. They're milling the grain, they have the flour.
Yeah.
But then that's another connection, another depth to that community of knowledge that you're.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is where I also feel like mixed farming is a lot because I see all these amazing people like you getting like your Angus cattle and genetics, and then other like friends like, and then there's like Fred Price, who's like super into his grain. And I mean, I'm slightly digressing here, but like I have these different hats where I never quite feel like I fully get into one thing because I'm switching between market garden, arable and cows. But that said, the Southwest Grain Network has been really amazing for me in terms of building that community and network. So, and we supply Shipton Mill, Matthews Cotswold Flour, and Can Mills, where Stoats and Sons in Dorset at Can Mills through the Southwest Grain Network. And all of those mills have got a nice like direct connection into it, in that at Shipton we were part of a group of farmers growing for Gale's Bakery, so we met the other farmers in the group and I've made good friends through that. We just did that for 1 year. At Matthews, Bertie Matthews, who runs the mill, will come out and see the farm. And like I saw him at cereals. I took my dad, he had his dad there. We swapped dads. Cool. You know? That's nice too. And then with the Southwest Grain Network, I'd always been super interested in what they were doing. But when I was at Hampton Gay, we were very livestock focused. We didn't grow any crops. So again, it just wasn't really my remit. But then as soon as I was at Ampney Brook, I jumped at the chance to get involved. And we fit the bill because we were organic, and they have a small group of organic farmers growing population grains for Can Mills to be sold to milled in flour and sold to bakeries in the southwest. And they in particular have tried this Danish population variety, which achieves consistently high protein, which is what's needed for baking sourdough.
Right.
So it's like a sort of rival to like organic Malika. So Malika's the general sort of milling wheat grown here, but this Manitoba would consistently achieve higher protein and also work well in an organic system. And
so for people listening who don't know what a population variety is, so that's just like a land race, is it?
It's genetically diverse, so every seed has got many different genotypes in it. So when you actually plant the seeds, they can express themselves in different ways. So in the field, you have lots of different plants. Well, all Manitoba, but like they look different. Some of them have got awns, so long spiky bits, and some of them are longer ears, different colours, different heights. And the point of that is so they breed them like that, so they keep crossbreeding them. And I can't remember which one, whether we also grow YQ, which is similar. That was bred in the UK at Wakelins. But one of them's got sort of 200 different parents, and they're cross genetically. And the idea is that when you then grow them, they are more resilient because depending on the climate or pest pressure in that year, they will express themselves in a different way. So when you've got a monoculture, all the plants are the same. If you get one type of pest that wipes the whole thing out, the crop's gone. Yeah. In a population, you'll get a pest or disease, or if it's dry, it'll wipe some of them out, but not all the plants are genetically identical. So you'll always get a crop. So the theory is if you have a genetically diverse seed and then you home save the seed every year, you'll adapt it to your farm and then become pest disease resistant, drought resistant, hopefully, and always get a crop that suits your farming conditions, which is particularly important if you're organic, because we want to work with nature and draw on natural systems.
But how will all the spray salesmen make a living?
They'll just have to convert to populations, I think. Yeah, poor guys. I'm sure they'll find something else.
So this goes into the wheat with the high protein, which then and sourdough obviously kind of taken off, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Last few years. So Yeah, so they've got a great product coming from that as well.
Yeah, and it seems the demand in the bakeries in the southwest has been really great. I think we're growing we're about 4 or 5 farms. It's sort of in excess of 200 tons that goes to the mill, maybe more like 300 or 400 now. And this will be our 3rd harvest. Well, this harvest just gone. So for harvest 27, we might start to try some other varieties as well. There's a Marajatoba 2.0.
Okay.
We also grow YQ for them as well, which we intercrop with beans this year. And what's amazing for me actually is that I learn a lot from the other farmers in the group. So there are, I think, 6 of us, and we meet regularly, discuss how the crops are going, what the challenges of that year have been, talk about the price, and we meet the millers as well and the bakers sometimes at certain meetings. So we get to hear how they get on, because the mill will take grain from each farm in a sort of single load, if you like. So the bakers are sort of baking with a single variety from each farm. So when they change farm, it can change the flour. So they then have to adapt.
Gosh.
So we talk a lot about that, and actually it's been great for me. And like at the last meeting, for example, I was the only female farmer there. And we have this quite, it's just like, I feel so supported by them. And also what I love about that group is that I can ask like what feels to me like the stupidest question.
And it's like, okay.
What is this? And they literally are like so generous with knowledge and time. And like, you know, when we were at the last meeting, it was the day before most of us started combining our winter wheat. And they were talking about combine settings, and I was like, I don't know any of this. And see, that's like the thing of like with the previous contractors that we'd had, maybe I wasn't asking the right questions, but I just didn't get that shared knowledge that I was hungry for. And I felt quite invisible sometimes at harvest when actually I was really interested, but I just didn't know how to, it was dynamics and tricky. So it's like really valuable to me, particularly as a female farm manager, and just being able to ask those questions and not feel stupid and like not be afraid to ask them, even though to all of them it was pretty like, oh well, we just do this and that and this with the combine, and then they're like, go and talk to your contractor about it tomorrow, we'll all send you a photo of our combine settings because they're quite different for organic versus conventional.
It is interesting. There's such a wide, like you say, with the mixed farming, there's lots of things to think about. I think it goes 2 ways. So yes, it's good I can focus down on a small area, but I'm quite jealous of all this diverse knowledge you get to pick up as well.
Yeah, so, I know.
It's
definitely like a huge amount of learning all the time. And I know I sort of dream about it quite often because there's just, lot. But it is, you know, you're just switching disciplines daily.
Okay, early in the kitchen, I actually think it was in here before we started rolling, actually. You were asking, like, why did we do the podcast? Why did I want to do that? And I was saying to you about, you know, actually there's some quite important stuff I think needs saying, and like there's a lot of changes going on in the world with technology and AI, and whether people are empowered to actually express themselves and be creative and do things, or whether some of that's been taken away, and stuff around community and sense of place and job satisfaction and meaningful work and all of that stuff wrapped up is kind of why I wanted to start, because you don't want to feel like you're doing nothing because it gets a bit stressful. So at least you've got an outlet. So yes, this is kind of my therapy in some ways. But when you were saying that, you said that chimed with you. So I wanted to say, like, well, what's on your mind with regard to what's going on at the moment and concerning you? And
yeah, I suppose like you, I always want to feel like I'm having impact, and like what I'm doing is making meaningful change in the world. And like I do feel just so committed to the farm and to building the community around it and producing good food, and like in particular with health, and like we have such a big health crisis, biodiversity loss, like all these huge challenges that we're facing, and like economic instability and actually and wars. I mean, we are farming like a few miles from the airbase at Fairford. We have really loud spy planes, bombers coming over regularly, and there's nothing that focuses your mind on what you're doing with your life than when you can. It's so in your face what's happening in the rest of the world. I mean, the world is literally burning at the moment, and it is. I mean, I actually try not to listen to the news too much because it's pretty scary out there. But I feel, I don't know. I was trying to think about where this came from the other day. That like commitment to wanting to do something good with the world, like in the world, and I do feel. I love to share what we're doing on the farm. I mean, within this sort of, I love what you're doing here with the podcast because you're trying to make people's stories more visible and tell those stories. And in the same way, I'm a bit on and off with it, but I do try and use my social media as well to share what we're doing on the farm. I love taking pictures. I think I even brought my camera with me. It's interesting how it kind of plays more also to my creative background. I find farming actually to be quite creative a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I feel like what we're doing on the farming side with mob grazing, I get such a kick out of moving the animals, watching all the butterflies and dragonflies fly up from the field, watching the concentrated cowpats. I mean, you know all of this stuff, watching all that biodiversity and bird life, and like in a way like that's my therapy.
Yeah.
Like when I was in my early 20s, my therapy was definitely like loud music and house and techno and lots of other things. Now I have a slightly more sensible vinyl collection and I get my kicks out of hedgerows. I have that same feeling, I think, of feeling really like free and enchanted and joyful with the world when I'm out in the fields with the cows, watching the swallows, riding around the quad bike pretending I'm in Montana, you know. And and actually often I feel like I want to try and harness that and share it. And I do try and do that through social media, through bringing people to the farm, and then ultimately like through the networks of selling direct and trying to communicate that. So there's sort of that arm to it, if that sort of answers your question.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting, and I think you draw on quite a few important points there, particularly thinking with the biodiversity thing. And I think it's, you know, in terms of how we farm, and like it's often sold as you can either have farming or wildlife, and the whole rewilding debate does that all the time. And it's such a shame, as someone who's worked as an ecologist my whole career, to see the whole conservation movement almost abandon land management and just go down this sort of unpeopling of the land, which is just dispossession by another name, really. And I just think we've got to be very careful about what we're doing there. And I quite like art as well, and I think I'm really bad on my impressionists, but I think it's Cézanne who there's in the Ashmolean Museum. There's a permanent exhibition of a massive Cézanne art exhibition, and you look and it's all like impressionist landscapes. There's something that's really interesting. There's people in all of them.
So true.
Which is just taken for granted.
Yeah.
And yet this sort of modern conservation movement's just completely decided that, almost with the anti-human rhetoric, that we actually just need to take people out and it'll be better, rather than thinking, well, could we just do things differently? Just because the corporate system isn't working for the environment, or whatever system that I think even a corporatist socialist system isn't necessarily going to work for the environment if people are hungry. But I think there's something about people with land and connection to it, they can look after it. And so, so for me, that's really important. And then the other side of it, I think, would be health as well, who, you know, and you talked about that with food. And I don't know about you probably know more about it than me, but like I kind of feel like the last 5-10 years is like everything I thought I knew about what was good to eat is completely turned on its head. Like how have we got this so wrong in the past the year 2000, and we don't know what we should be eating?
I know, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think I have so much to say about all the things you just said. Like I totally agree with the farming with nature, and people are animals, like, you know, like we are in the landscape.
We are nature.
Like we are, and like I am the farm. I mean,
Yeah.
like I often feel like that. Like there is no separation there. I mean, some, you know, then there's arguments of like it's a job, but equally, like that's how I grew up, and like I feel, and I think our sort of journey and vision at Ampney Brook of selling locally as much as possible, and like we don't deal with big corporations. We only really do when we have to, and we're creating our own ecosystem, and like it's possible to farm with nature, produce food, create your own local market. So I'm all for that, and that is definitely what I want to learn more about and look at how we lead that transition to more regional food networks. And then equally the health element of it, I think I was really enchanted at the food assembly by that aspect of healthy eating, good eating, because that sort of was my route back to the farm. And my, like, whether it was the stress of like working at a desk all the time, people tell me these days that I never look fitter and healthier and more thriving than I do on the farm, even though I'm much busier and more tired. But that, my diet and my general health working in the city and eating processed food and eating out a lot was not good, not as anything like it is now. And I got really into trying to understand why that was, like why I was bloated and felt nauseous and what was causing that. And I think, like, for me, coming back to like what's real food, what's in our food, and so much of processed food, and where does that come from, what's in it. And I saw a really amazing nutritionist give a talk, and I can't remember her name now, but she wrote a book called Staying Alive in Toxic Times, or Staying Healthy in Toxic Times. She spoke at the Regen conference in Jersey a couple of years ago, and that book is amazing. I mean, that just builds on like the ultra processed people, all of those other amazing people that are doing work and research into this. And it just makes you realise, like, I don't know, we don't want to go there with the glyphosate debate as well, but like, if there's anything that's going to make you be an organic purist, it's probably that book. Like, and I mean, you know, we are always like having to make choices about what we eat every day, and it's not easy to eat organic whole foods all the time.
No.
But it's like, how do we make them more accessible?
But it might not have to be everything you eat. Like if you could try and get most of it to be that. But I think if everything you're eating is processed and has chemical residues, that's when the health issues are going to kick in. Like if you can just halve it, it's going to have an impact.
Just a few things. I know. I feel so lucky to work on a farm where we produce meat and vegetables, and I have 2 chickens in my garden, so I've got plenty of eggs, and I get organic milk and butter. And because I live in a village with only 10 houses, I barely ever go to the shops, and I think everyone at the farm makes fun of me because they say that I never leave. But like supermarkets kind of terrify me a bit, because like I can't help myself when I go in there. I am an absolute chocoholic. So if I get into a supermarket, I will go straight there. And so I try not to, because I now know that when I eat any kind of like particularly processed bread or sugar as well, makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like really sluggish. And when I have been super busy on the farm and I'm just eating fresh veg and steak or venison, I feel completely different. And so from my own perspective, I can see the value. And also, like, again, the nutrient density sort of conversation about how you don't actually need to eat that much. Like, I don't, like, I'm lucky that I can eat really great quality food, and
but you don't need that's a really good point.
You don't need loads to get the same amount of nutrition.
Well, I saw I think this has been proven. There's some research done with oranges, you probably know about this, where they tested the vitamin C level of oranges, and the fact that they found that some oranges in the supermarkets contained 0 vitamin C. So it's like, and how the nutrition profile of some of the stuff we're eating. And basically that fruit is basically then just sugar, water.
And that's
what's
also,
it doing for you?
it's the power of food marketing as well, of like, we are sold the narrative. Like, oranges are really good for vitamin C, but it's in loads of other things as well. And I think that's also that thing of like, our food is so much less nutrient dense by nature of sometimes the way it's produced. And the chemical residues we have, we don't know what they're doing to our bodies, and they have long-term health impacts. And there's food marketing, there's pharmaceutical marketing, back to the sort of control of those big corporations and money behind them.
All those corporations are essentially owned by the same people. When you look at the key investors, other major investment firms like BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, and they all own each other. So they're all the same people, basically. So
you see it in the arable seed system as well. Like, the population varieties, I think, are still technically illegal to trade because you're supposed to buy grain that's on the recommended list, because the big seed companies have paid a lot of money to test and license, and they know that they are going to behave exactly how they expect in the field. Whereas these genetically diverse varieties, they don't know what they're going to do, and they haven't been tested rigorously, and there's a huge amount of control in the seed companies.
It's crazy to think that someone can say, no, you can't grow that.
Yeah, and then
it's a plant.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's more natural than your GM bollocks.
I know. And then it comes back to that health question of they're controlling what varieties we eat, what we grow, and like, we become powerless, but then actually through networks like Southwest Grain Network and other networks, we're taking back some of that control and actually saying, no, we're going to grow these things, and we're going to have local, regional infrastructure, and we're going to think about our health and our community health and farm health. And it feels, to me, it just feels quite a natural thing to do. Like, it's also the thing that I love as well is like, when I was a child and we grew grain at the farm, it would go away on a lorry and you'd never see it turn into food. And now we have our grain in the shed. I can buy it from Cam Mills if I want to bake with it, or I've got a little tabletop mock mill, so I can just get grain out of the shed and mill it myself at my own risk. It's not been tested or certified, but it's that connection back to actually eating food from literally from the field there.
You can actually just mill your own.
And use it.
No, it's interesting. And you also mentioned about the war thing, and then that links into supply chain threats with fuel. And Sophie was in here, the last guest, talking about just the impact of electricity prices and fuel prices when they're going up and down on a high input dairy business. But it's not just that. I think it's almost the whole food system relies on cheap energy. So if we're going to go and start these wars, these sort of international follies, or whatever they are, whether they're necessary or not, I'm not going to get into that. But the point is if we get fertilizer, fuel that we can't get hold of, electricity prices and energy prices go up to unsustainable levels. Even stuff like apples, like we were just talking about fruit, that I think they're basically picked wherever they're picked, and then they're put in refrigeration for up to 12 months. These massive refrigerated warehouses, and because cheap energy allows this kind of model where they can be stored there until they're needed and taken to the supermarkets, that is not going to happen with energy prices above a certain point.
Yeah.
And so it's like then the whole supply chain system kind of breaks. And if you don't have local supply, that suddenly becomes a problem because you can't get the apples there. So it's like, I think a lot of this stuff, so what you're doing, building local supply chains, local networks with the working with the millers, it sounds, it's kind of where we need to be, really.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that, like, in terms of resilience, and it can, like, it's hard graft building a local market. I mean, sure. I know my parents were pretty ahead of the curve, really. Like, they were such good community builders around selling beef, and they were involved in one of the first farmers markets in Oxford, and it just took off for them. Like, they did super well, and they had a real following, and like, my mum used to get given loads of gifts, like knitted scarves and like vouchers, and like her customers just loved her. And maybe that was just like programmed into me about community and food and that sort of importance of that. But now more than ever, it feels so very critical that we have resilient, robust local food networks. And even though it can feel like it's tricky, like selling veg boxes is really hard. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but people are used to having apples out of season. They are used to having courgettes whenever they want them. But the reality is right now we have hundreds of kilos of courgettes, but we will not have them in 6 months' time. And people get used to having what they want when they want. So actually getting a veg box with what's in season, we are slowly educating people, but we're definitely not there yet. And it's tricky because
it's hard with the courgettes. I mean, we should probably only be eating courgettes at the moment for the look of our plants, but
quite.
It's like a nightmare, isn't it? It becomes a...
It is that thing of like, maybe it's the farmers or like the existence or being close to the land, but it's a bit like what you said earlier, the thing that resonates with like knowing your own farm. And like, I can walk the same walk at my parents' farm every day and I never get bored of it because it changes with the seasons. And I really love that. And like, maybe it's the same with seasonal eating. Like you just embrace it because you know you have a deep connection with the land, what's available, and you're plugged into that like on a more like spiritual level, if you want to call it. I don't know, like knowing that like this is what the land is producing, this is what's good for my body right now, and I'm okay with not having my apple that's been in refrigeration for 4 months until I've got to eat it.
I think that is really important, isn't it, to have that connection. And I wonder if actually with what's happening with technology and AI, I've noticed like I've got a 16-year-old daughter who's mad on, she's actually like wants to get a camera with film in, and she'd rather have vinyl. And she, and it's that I'd say she's quite representative. She's not like a niche group, a friendship group, but they're definitely less keen on all the AI slop, and they want to get away from that. And I wonder if a lot of the advantages of Amazon and supermarket shopping and all of those things, they've always been advantages. But with technology coming, that's going to sort of take away a lot of people's connection to other people, to real things. And it seems there's going to be a desire. I think there's going to be a massive desire towards real things and real connection. Yeah. And this could actually work massively in favour of produce and connection to land and all of that stuff.
Absolutely. So, I think that, I mean, I'm totally like that too. I've always been really interested in old things, and I've got a big vinyl record collection. Like I love playing music on vinyl. It just feels really different to like, I mean, I do use Spotify a lot too, but that tangibility is really important to me. And
the vinyl doesn't really work well on long journeys, does it?
No, that is true. But it does if you're a farmer and you're at home a lot of the time. But then having said that, there's other technology that's super good. I won't go into listening things, but like, I know what you mean. It's this like sort of return to like actual like tangibility and like feeling and like not kind of dissociating yourself from that. And it like really heartens me to hear that young people are really like
I think
getting into that and like appreciating and valuing that, because in a way, like my parents, they're the supermarket generation. Like they, despite living, my dad grew up on a farm, they still buy all their veg from the supermarket, That's their shopping habits. Whereas like their kids, me mostly, have like I'm the one that's going to the local organic shop or bringing produce from the farm home and being like, here you go, have our courgettes. And like it is that sort of change. And the more we can kind of share that and educate people, definitely the better. But AI is, I don't use AI really at all. Like I'm sort of,
I'm definitely weaning myself of it. It's one of the things, even with the podcast. So it's kind of those things that no one wants to do. So even the videographer doesn't want to clip this podcast into 40 little clips to use on social media, but AI can do it with a button.
That's so true.
So actually, and it may be some of the admin stuff like pouring through spreadsheets that you
Yeah.
can shortcut so you can actually get to the decision making
Yeah.
bit of the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So you can see, but is that really just computing, not AI?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think that's the same thing. But I do think that people are gonna, I think, are gonna go completely the other way. And there's a lovely essay written by Wendell Berry, which, and I think it was written in the 80s, and how prescient it is. But it's called "What Are People For?" And at a time when like AI and technology and robots apparently is going to take all our jobs away and all of this sort of stuff, and there's a line in there, I'll probably screw this up, but it's something like is the height of human expression to be unemployed? Because obviously it's not.
To be totally free.
Yeah. And you realise that this idea of total
Yeah.
freedom, which is quite a postmodernist, quite a philosophical modern idea in a lot of movements, that actually having something that holds you and that you're held to is a good thing.
It's value, community and purpose. I mean,
and place.
Yeah, and interestingly, he probably doesn't know this and he probably won't listen to this, but I did peek in my dad's notebook. He'd left it open on the table and he's obviously thinking about the transition and succession, and he'd written that, you know, for the next stage of his life, he wanted to have a meaningful, purposeful life. And it makes me feel quite moved thinking about that. And it's like, you know, I think as farmers, like, purpose is everything. Community is very important. And
that's a big thing in succession for a lot of people, I think.
No, it really, it resonates. I mean, it just is like, why do we do what we do? And I feel with AI, I mean, there's definitely ways it can support, like clipping 40 clips, like, oh my gosh, like that is mundane, if anything, and long-term work. But it's interesting, that kind of plays into this, like, we are animals, we are creative beings, like we can do things. And actually I'm really reticent always to like use AI to write things, because I don't want to lose that. I've really honed that like creative skill of making and writing and using things, and that's one thing that I try to keep doing when I have time, even if it's just on Instagram, to write things in my own style. But it equally, like, there's various tools and things. I went to a talk the other day about using it to scan your pasture and it'll tell you the you know, forage and dry mass per hectare and all that. And I'm thinking, wow, that is cool. Like, that sounds way better than my brain, which has already been replaced by the phone for like working out how much sward there is. And so I'm like quite curious. I feel like I'm always curious about these things, but I, like we sort of talked about, these themes of community, creativity, like purpose and meaning. I don't know, definitely as farmers, I feel like those things are they're so important to me. They're obviously important to my family as well.
Sure. And that's a really good point you make. Makes me think about the collars. You know, these no fence or Monil or these various brands of collars where they can move cattle by GPS and you can check them and you can see if they're moving and I held off from it. And a lot of people have said that we've got perfect situation for it. Why don't you do it there? Why don't you do it here? But I do wonder with the apps, like, put a little camera on those collars so they can just like measure the grass for you, see how much is there, see when to move them. And then AI is going to make those decisions. And then you put the budgeting and stuff, like a few mates message about, I think one in particular I won't name, who's always going on about, I'm doing all my business stuff on AI now. So you map all that stuff with grazing, with margins, into the collars, which are going to measure the grass and move the cows for you. What are you going to do? Like we're just like, it's the same thing as like those senior software engineers who are getting paid to train AI to replace them. And we're going to do the same bloody thing with our animals. And it's like, what are people for? Back to Wendell Berry's thing,
quote of like,
which is when it's actually
becoming unemployed.
What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I want to move my cows. I want to look at them.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing. It was quite fascinating actually. Dad and I went to cereals, and at cereals there were a few livestock stands, and we got the sales pitch from the Monil collars, and Dad was like, that is amazing. That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And he wouldn't stop going on about that. and the drone sprayer that we saw after as well. But I mean, it's almost like, to him, it's so futuristic, I think, this kind of weird space age sort of thing. And it was interesting because I feel like, and this came up a lot with when I worked with Abby, of like this, where technology can be helpful with Soil Mentor, for example, is this human empowering the person to do more or to make better decisions. And like Soil Mentor is a very like human-centered technology. Interestingly, it is difficult to get people to use it because it needs so much input from a farmer. But I wonder if, you know, it's like technology that can help. And like, for example, with collars at home, like at the family farm, we were like, oh, that could be great because there's no infrastructure, but you could still go around and check and look, but it's just keeping them in. But it's that thing of like, Dad, even though he doesn't have cows anymore, we've got some liveries and horses in the barns. Every morning he goes, I need to go and check they're okay. And it's like this built-in routine. So I do wonder with him, with habit forming and technology, he just wouldn't be able to take the person out of it. And I agree, like there's so, on the days actually that I'm not too busy and I have time to spend with the cows, like on the weekends in particular, sometimes I'll sit and I'll take pictures and, you know, put things on Instagram. And those are often the days that I like notice more things as well.
Yeah.
Because I spend more time with them and I love doing that. Like, I often think I would really like just a livestock farm because I would like to hang out with cows most of the time. And yeah, it's like, where is that intersection? Like, where does technology take away from our meaning and purpose? And like, how can it empower us to have more?
Yeah. No, I think that's good. And I think that's a good question. I think that probably draws us to a close. So thank you ever so much, Ali, for coming. Really, really good conversation, I think, and really enjoyed it. And good luck with everything.
Thank
you. Hopefully we'll see you front and present on lots more panels and things in the future.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
No, good. Thank you. Okay, this has been Call to the Land. As ever, please follow along on socials. If you want to help us out, let's see who's listened right to the end of this podcast. And if you have, why don't you comment underneath this video on whatever platform you're looking on. You can just comment, say no to GPS collars, and then we'll see if anyone is listening right to the end. Anyway, thank you very much. Please follow, like, subscribe, comment on all the social stuff because it really helps us. Thanks very much and see you next time.